the biggest transfer of wealth in the history of the world is currently happening. And if you're one of the lucky few getting a piece of that inheritance, good for you. But if you're like the rest of us, you better watch out. You better be ready, because if you're not ready, these rich, when I say rich kids, I'm talking about, people getting inheritances in their 20s and their 30s, even their 40s. And if you're not careful, they can wreak havoc on you, and they can come along and kick your ass. And I'll tell you, but I will tell you the biggest counter that you have. And this is what I'm doing. And it's interesting too, because I always tell my kids that there's always in life, there's always a counter to everything. Anything you can think of. Like I always tell them, like, for example, if you think of like the most vicious species in, the scariest species in the world, like what kind of animal would it be? And you might think, well, it would be a king cobra or a rattlesnake. Well, okay, yeah, and those things are deadly and they can kill just about anything, right? But there's counters to that. There's, what is it, mongooses, I think, that kill cobras, and there's another thing, it's I forgot, a honey badger maybe. And you think of like crocodiles but snakes can kill them, and humans do, and then it goes on and on. So even if you think of the biggest companies, okay, well, there was a time when we thought Yahoo couldn't be beat, and then Google came along and destroyed them, right? But anyways, not to get off topic, what the rich, and again, when I say rich kids, it's people in their 20s, in their 30s, in their 40s. So it doesn't matter what age you are, you got to be ready for it, because this is where they have an advantage. Okay, they have some big advantages. Is that if they're younger, if they're coming from a wealthy family, they're probably better educated, they're going to better schools, they're making better connections, they get better jobs right off the bat, and they probably have some type of nest egg to begin with. Okay, and along the way up, if you're in business or you're in a job, if you're competing against these people that have extra money, I'm telling you right now, it's difficult. It's difficult. People always say, "Oh, but blah blah blah, whatever." No. I'm telling you right now, it's difficult. They can be beat. They can be beat, because I've been there, and I've beaten a lot of those people, but it's very difficult. Now, I'll tell you what you have that they don't, and this is, to me, I think, the most significant thing. Now, if you take someone who has ambition, and then you're competing against someone with ambition, and then all of a sudden that person, out of nowhere gets $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 backup, well, it's going to be very difficult to keep competing against that person. But here's what you have and what I have that they don't. And that is what I say for myself is, and you can interpret it the way you want to take it. But like for me, I've always had that chip on my shoulder. And you probably have the same thing. And you might, if you're younger, you might not know how to channel it. It took me some time to channel that chip, or to even realize, that chip. And I'll go more, in another video, I'll go in depth about, the chip on my shoulder, and, what it's from and all that. But I can tell you, the way I've harnessed it is by being more focused, by working harder, by working longer. There's and many athletes have said this over the years, but I forgot who was first credited with it. I think it was like Julius Erving. He played for the 76ers back in the day. It's even before my time, and I'm older, right? I'm 45. This is Julius Erving. I think played in the in the late 70s, early 80s, give or take a little bit. And he always talked about having high expectations for himself, like higher than other people had for him. Like people thought one thing, but he always had bigger expectations for himself. And I think that's, when I talk about a chip on my shoulder, I've kind of taken that same approach where I've pushed myself farther than other people have. And it doesn't mean you're going to make $1 zillion doing it, but you know what? You might be better than average. You might be a little bit better than average. And here's what I'll say. And we're gonna wrap it. We're gonna wrap it at this. You gotta be. You gotta know what you're competing against, and you have to know that they have advantages, but they also have. You can count on those advantages. For example, if you took someone with money, they're all of a sudden, if someone's competing and then they get a $200,000 windfall or $300,000 because it's some type of inheritance or something, that person will more than likely relax a little bit, take their foot off the gas. And that's exactly the time where you put your foot on the gas and you can go zipping right past those people. And, once you get ahead, you're ahead. Now you got to keep, staying there is a whole different story, but you can get ahead and you can get ahead of those people. And you need to be working hard to compete against those people because they have a lot of advantages that you and I don't. We don't have these, the big education, the big schools and the education, even the education right from being young. There's people who get taught lessons in life, from the time they're 5 and 6 years old, and then all the way up till they're 20 or 22 or 25 till they leave the house, and then they leave with, a little pocket of cash. Most of us don't have that. Most of us, our parents do the best they could, and then nothing against our parents. They did the best they could, but not all our parents are rich, so it's like, so if for those of us coming from humble beginnings, we got to make our own way. And by making your own way, you got to outwork, you got to out hustle, you got to outthink, you got to outgrind those people because they have a lot of advantages. And those advantages are real. No matter what people tell you, those advantages are real. All right, we'll wrap it at that.